wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain, amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa qul ja'al haqq wa zaqal batil. Innal batila kana zahuqa. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Honorable Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohammed, my respected elders, and my brothers and sisters, I welcome all of you with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of Almighty God, be on all of you. The topic of this evening's talk of mine is Islam's view on terrorism and jihad. Islam is derived from the Arabic word salam, which means peace. It's also derived from the Arabic word silm, which means to submit your will to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to Almighty God. Islam, in short, means peace acquired by submitting your will to Almighty God. And a person who acquires peace by submitting his will to Almighty God is called as a Muslim. Today, the most important weapon in the world is the media. The media can convert black into white, day into night, hero into a villain, villain into a hero. And we find today in the international media, there is virulent propaganda regarding Islam. We find in the international media, the international newspapers, the international magazines, the radio broadcast stations, the international satellite channels, on the internet, they are bombarding misconceptions about Islam. And according to an article that came in the Newsweek magazine on 16th of April, 1979, it said that more than 60,000 books have been written against Islam in a span of 150 years. If you calculate, it is more than one book every day. And after 9/11, this has reached epidemic levels. And we find regularly in the media that Muslims are labeled as fundamentalists, as extremists, as terrorists. What is the meaning of the word fundamentalist? A fundamentalist, by definition, means a person who follows the fundamentals of one particular subject. For example, if a person wants to be a good mathematician, he should know, follow, and practice the fundamentals of maths. Unless he is a fundamentalist in the field of maths, he cannot be a good mathematician. For a person to be a good scientist, he should know, follow, and practice the fundamentals of science. Unless he is a fundamentalist in the field of science, he cannot be a good scientist. We cannot paint all fundamentalists with the same brush, that all are good or all are bad. Depending in which field the person is a fundamentalist, you have to label him accordingly. For example, if you have a fundamentalist robber whose profession is to rob, he is bad for society. He's not a good fundamentalist. On the other hand, if you have a fundamentalist doctor whose profession is to save thousands of human lives, he is good for the society. You can't paint all fundamentals with the same brush. You have to first analyze in which field is the person a fundamentalist. As far as I am concerned, I am a fundamentalist Muslim, and I am proud to be a fundamentalist Muslim. Because I know, I follow, and I strive to practice the fundamental of Islam, and I know that there is not a single fundamental of Islam which is against humanity as a whole. There may be certain teachings of Islam which some human being may not know the background, but the moment you give the reply with reason, logic, and why these teachings are there, there is not a single unbiased human being in the world who can point out a single fundamental of Islam which is against humanity as a whole. When we read the Webster's dictionary, we come to know that fundamentalism was a word coined first time to describe the Christians of America in the early part of the 20th century. They were called as Protestant Christians because they protested against the church. The church believed that the message of the Bible was from God. These Protestant Christians, they protested and said, not only is the message of the Bible from God, every word, every letter of the Bible is from God. If someone can prove that every word of the Bible is from God, this movement is a good movement. But on the other hand, if someone can prove that every word of the Bible is not from God, then this movement of fundamentalism is not good. According to Oxford Dictionary, fundamentalist is a person who strictly adheres to the ancient teachings and scriptures of any religion. But when we read the revised edition of the Oxford Dictionary, there's a slight change. The revised edition of Oxford Dictionary says that fundamentalist is a person who strictly adheres to the ancient teachings and scriptures of any religion, especially Islam. Especially Islam has been added in the revised edition of the Oxford Dictionary. The moment you hear the word fundamentalist, you start thinking of a Muslim. Muslims are fundamentalists, Muslims are extremists, and many a times we Muslims go on the defense. As Dr. Mahathir Mohamad rightly said, that why should we be apologetic? Many of us Muslims go on the defense, no, I am not a fundamentalist, I am not an extremist. I tell the world that I am an extremist. I'm extremely kind, I'm extremely merciful, I'm extremely loving, I'm extremely just, I'm extremely honest. What's wrong in being extremely kind, extremely just, extremely honest? Can any human being tell me that being extremely kind is wrong, being extremely honest is wrong, being extremely just is wrong? If it benefits you, you're just. If it does not benefit you, you're not just. That's not Islam. And Quran says you have to be extremely kind, extremely loving, extremely compassionate, extremely honest. If you are a practicing Muslim, you have to be extremely kind, extremely honest, extremely just. You have to be extremist in the correct direction. Today the media labels, the media says that Muslims are terrorists. What is the meaning of the word terrorist? A terrorist by definition means a person who causes terror. When a robber sees a policeman, he's terrified. So for the robber, the policeman is a terrorist. And many times we see that for the same person, for the same activity, two different labels are given. And the best example is when India was ruled by the British government about more than 60 years ago. There were many Indians who were fighting for the freedom of the country. These people, by the British government, they were called as terrorists. But we common Indians, we call these people as patriots, as freedom fighters. Same people, same activity, but two different labels. If you agree with the view of the British government that they had a right to rule over India, then you have to call these people as terrorists. But if you agree with the view of the common Indians that the Britishers came to India to do business, they have no right to rule over us, you would call these people as patriots, as freedom fighters. Same people, same activity, but two different labels. And many a times, when I'm addressing the Indian press, and they ask me the question that why are Muslims terrorists? So I asked them a question that more than 65 years ago, the Britishers called Bhagat Singh as a terrorist. Do you believe? And the press says no. I said, why? No, because we know that Bhagat Singh was not a terrorist, he was a patriot. I said, even I do not agree that Bhagat Singh was a terrorist. He was a patriot. 60 years back, when the Britishers labeled Bhagat Singh as a terrorist, you don't agree with him. Now when the Britishers are labeling Muslims as terrorists, why do you agree with them? Why these double standards? And we have this example in history in several places in the world. We know that a couple of centuries back, Britishers used to rule America. In 1776 was the American Revolution. At that time, there were many Americans who were fighting for the freedom of the country. And at that time, the British government called George Washington as terrorist number one. Terrorist number one in 1776, according to the British government, was George Washington. When USA gets its freedom, terrorist number one becomes the president of USA. We have example of South Africa. Previously, when the white apartheid government ruled South Africa, they arrested Nelson Mandela and imprisoned him in Robben Islands for more than 25 years. And they called him the terrorist number one. When South Africa got its freedom, the same terrorist number one becomes the president of New South Africa. And later on, he gets the Nobel Prize for Peace. Not that he was bad and he became good. For the same activity for which he was called terrorist number one, later on, he gets the Nobel Prize for Peace. Can you imagine terrorist number one in the world getting Nobel Prize for Peace? So what we realize, that whoever is in power, whatever label is given, it gets stuck, whether right or wrong. So today media is very powerful. Whatever label the media gives, unfortunately, it gets stuck, irrespective whether it's right or wrong. That's why I said, today, media is the most powerful weapon in the world. It can convert black into white, day into night, hero into a villain, villain into a hero. And unfortunately, we Muslims, we are very backward as far as media is concerned.